Welcome back to the Ragnarok tutorial series. Today we'll go through the importance of a GRF file and why you should use more than the default offers. GRF files, or the game archive files here, are the backbone of your Ragnarok Online client. Think of them as a specialized container that hold all the essential game's data, including everything from the maps that you explore to the monsters you fight, the item sprites, sound effects, and even the user interface elements. The primary, or the default, GRF you'll encounter is data.grf. This file contains all the base game data. You can explore its contents using tools like GRF Editor by Tokiboru. Inside it you'll find very specific file and folder structure that the game client relies on to locate and load assets. It's crucial to respect this structure. Any custom additions or modifications must follow this exact format to prevent errors and ensure the game runs as smoothly as possible. So, how does the game know which GRF to read, especially if you have more than one? That's where the data.ini file comes in. This critical settings file tells the game client which GRF file to load and, importantly, in what order. The list in data.ini establishes a priority sequence, typically starting with 0 as the highest priority. The game reads GRFs in the specified order, with the highest priority GRF overriding those with lower priority GRFs, if they share the same path and file name, of course. You might wonder why we don't just pack everything into one massive GRF. The original framework of Ragnarok Online, dating back to its release in 2002, was built in the FAT32 file system in mind. This imposes a significant limitation, for each GRF cannot exceed 4 GB in size. While this might seem restrictive for today's standards, the data.ini system provides a clever workaround for allowing us to use multiple GRFs, and the multiple GRF approach isn't just a fix for the size limit. This multiple GRF approach isn't just a fix for the file size limit, it's a cornerstone of efficient and stable server management. Using multiple GRFs offers significant benefits though, especially when you're introducing custom content or managing a server long term. Instead of a single cluttered data.grf, you can neatly organize your game data. For instance, one GRF can contain your custom maps, models, and their textures for maps. Another GRF can contain the sprites and textures for your weapons and NPCs and characters. A separate one can be for your palettes, where you can manage all your palettes in one secluded area. A primary custom GRF for critical configuration files like your client-side settings, translations. Keep all that tidy and neat in one area, so you only have to update one file. By keeping the official data.grf pristine and loading it last in your data.ini priority list, you will ensure that the fundamental game files are always available as a fallback. If a custom item or map causes a client to crash, you can simply and temporarily remove the specific custom GRF from the data.ini to test out if the issue is resolved with or without it. This helps isolate problems quickly without breaking the core game. With multiple GRFs, with multiple GRFs, you can get targeted updates where you only need to add custom content to the GRFs in need. For example, if you have events, they require you to update very specific files. You only need to edit the event GRF if you have an event GRF. Players download smaller, more focused patches, which will also help a lot with limiting the amount of patching conflicts that arise during the patch process. If your custom UI elements or translations are in a high priority custom GRF, the official game updates that modify data.grf are less likely to overwrite your changes. Your customizations will take precedence and will be read first during the stack, so you will always have your data read first, and if it's not existing, it'll go to the next data. Modifying smaller, dedicated GRFs is often quicker and carries less risk than altering a massive, all-encompassing file as well during the patching process. Have you ever needed to add a seasonal event or had the idea to add one with unique maps and items? Pack them into a dedicated event GRF and you are set. Now you only need to use this GRF when event times come by, and you can have everything packed up all in one. Even when the event is over, you can easily remove it by updating the data.ini and just taking it out completely without disrupting the core custom files or the base GRF. And you don't have to redistribute any of those additional files, which saves you a lot of patching time, Saves a lot of conflicts, some sprite errors, texture errors you might encounter. It saves a lot of time. So running off of just a separate GRF, especially for things like events and seasonal events that change maps, huge recommendation for it. GRF files can also be password encrypted. You can apply different passwords to different GRFs if you need, but you can also apply a password to multiple GRFs as well. Adding a layer of protection to your custom assets is the least you can do for things that you might happen to pay for. If you're not too worried about it, you don't have to encrypt. It's not a mandatory thing. While the zlib compression used has known vulnerabilities, this feature still offers you a basic deterrent from just anybody taking your files away. They still have to work at it to open the file. Now, the potential downsides to be aware of is that a GRF can only be 4 gigabytes in size, as mentioned before. Each individual GRF has a 4 gigabyte cap. For very extensive custom servers, you will need to plan your GRF divisions carefully. Data.grf requirement is just typically the game data that comes by default with the game. Try not to touch this too much. At the most, maybe throw your English translates in there, but if you update your data GRF with any patchers or any of the latest game updates anytime, you will have to redo all that process again because it will overwrite it. So keep your data separate. So if the official data.grf itself becomes too large, near the 4 gigabyte limit, it may stop receiving the official updates that are required to run the game. If your episode requires it, you will have to run this. Older GRFs you can probably get away with because you're not really adding any new content to the game, but the newer versions of the game, you want to maintain this data.grf under 4 gigabytes of space, so you can maintain all those proper updates and patches. If you heavily modify your own data GRF instead of using separate custom GRFs, your client might not be compatible with other servers that expect a standard data GRF. This emphasizes the best practice of using additional GRFs for your own unique server content, and by keeping the data GRF default, you can also recycle it so you don't have to constantly download it for other servers. You can start using the light packages and just put your data GRF inside of there. So the question is, should you use custom GRF files? And I would say absolutely yes, especially if you plan on adding any custom content to your Ragnarok Online server, and even if you're not, be it items, maps, interface tweaks, custom configurations, or even just extensive translations. I would highly recommend a custom GRF for all the changes you put into your server, and leave everything else default based on the game itself. For custom rich servers, the more custom content you envision in your game, like your new classes, unique towns, hundreds of custom items, the more critical a well-structured multi-GRF system is going to be needed. Following a sorted approach where your palettes are in one, your maps and models are in another, items are in one, configs and translations are in another, you will save immense headaches in the long run, making your server easier to manage, patch, and expand. Even if you only plan to add translation packs, putting them in a separate, high-priority GRF is wise. This prevents official game updates from overwriting your translations, a common frustration when edits are made, especially directly to a data.grf. This prevents official game updates from overwriting your translations, a common frustration when edits are made directly to data.grf. So if your goal is purely vanilla gameplay experience with no modifications whatsoever, then managing extra GRFs might not seem immediately necessary. However, the moment you decide to tweak, translate, or add anything, embracing multiple GRFs is the path and a more organized, stable, and easy updatable server moving forward. End of the day, strategically using multiple GRFs managed via data.ini system is a powerful technique that gives a greater control, provides stability, and streamlines the process of building and maintaining a unique and engaging Ragnarok Online private server. It might seem a little daunting at first, but the long-term benefits for organization and patching are well worth the initial setup. Thanks for watching this video. Keep me in mind next time you're thinking about Ragnarok development, and I'll see you next time.